Sunday. Isn't it funny? I started to write to you yesterday afternoon, but as far as I got was the heading, Dear Daddy Longlegs. And then I remembered I'd promised to pick some blackberries for supper, so I went off and left the sheet lying on the table. And when I came back today, what do you think I found sitting in the middle of the page? A real true Daddy Longlegs. I picked him up very gently by one leg, and dropped him out of the window. I wouldn't hurt one of them for the world. They always remind me of you. We hitched up the spring wagon this morning and drove to the center to church. It's a sweet little white frame church with a spire and 3 Doric columns in front. Or maybe Ionic, I always get them mixed. A nice, sleepy sermon with everybody drowsily waving palm leaf fans, and the only sound, aside from the minister, the buzzing of locusts in the trees outside. I didn't wake up till I found myself on my feet singing the hymn, and then I was awfully sorry I hadn't listened to the sermon. This is Sunday afternoon. Amasai, hired man. In a purple tie and some bright yellow buckskin gloves, very red and shaved. Has just driven off with Carrie, hired girl, in a big hat trimmed with red roses and a blue muslin dress and her hair curled as tight as it will curl. Amasai spent all the morning washing the buggy. And Carrie stayed home from church ostensibly to cook the dinner, but really to iron the muslin dress. In 2 minutes more, when this letter is finished, I am going to settle down to a book which I found in the attic. It's entitled, On the Trail, and sprawled across the front page in a funny little boy hand. Jervis Pendleton. If this book should ever roam, box its ears and send it home. He spent the summer here once after he had been ill, when he was about 11 years old. And he left, On the Trail, behind. It looks well read, the marks of his grimy little hands are frequent. Also, in a corner of the attic there is a water wheel and a windmill and some bows and arrows. Mrs. Semple talks so constantly about him that I begin to believe he really lives, not a grown man with a silk hat and walking stick, but a nice, dirty, tousle-headed boy who clatters up the stairs with an awful racket, and leaves the screen doors open, and is always asking for cookies. And getting them, too, if I know Mrs. Semple. He seems to have been an adventurous little soul. And brave and truthful. I'm sorry to think he is a Pendleton, he was meant for something better. We're going to begin threshing oats tomorrow, a steam engine is coming and 3 extra men. It grieves me to tell you that Buttercup, the spotted cow with one horn, mother of Lesbia, has done a disgraceful thing. She got into the orchard Friday evening and ate apples under the trees, and ate until they went to her head. For 2 days she has been perfectly dead drunk. That is the truth I am telling. Did you ever hear anything so scandalous? Sir, I remain your affectionate orphan, Judy Abbott. P.S. Indians in the first chapter and highwaymen in the second. I hold my breath. What can the third contain? Red Hawk leapt 20 feet in the air and bit the dust. That is the subject of the frontispiece. Aren't Judy and Jervy having fun? September 15th. Dear Daddy. I was weighed yesterday on the flour scales in the general store at the Corners. I've gained 9 pounds. Let me recommend Lock Willow as a health resort. Yours ever, Judy. September 25th. Dear Daddy Longlegs. Behold me, a sophomore. I came up last Friday, sorry to leave Lock Willow, but glad to see the campus again. It is a pleasant sensation to come back to something familiar. I am beginning to feel at home in college, and in command of the situation. I am beginning, in fact, to feel at home in the world. As though I really belonged in it and had not just crept in on sufferance. I don't suppose you understand in the least what I am trying to say. A person important enough to be a trustee can't appreciate the feelings of a person unimportant enough to be a foundling. And now, Daddy, listen to this. Whom do you think I am rooming with? Sally McBride and Julia Rutledge Pendleton. It's the truth. We have a study and 3 little bedrooms, voila. Sally and I decided last spring that we should like to room together, and Julia made up her mind to stay with Sally. Why, I can't imagine, for they are not a bit alike, but the Pendletons are naturally conservative and inimical, fine word, to change. Anyway, here we are. Think of Jerusha Abbott, late of the John Grier Home for Orphans, rooming with a Pendleton. This is a democratic country. Sally is running for class president, and unless all signs fail, she is going to be elected. Such an atmosphere of intrigue, you should see what politicians we are. Oh, I tell you, Daddy, when we women get our rights, you men will have to look alive in order to keep yours. Election comes next Saturday, and we're going to have a torchlight procession in the evening. No matter who wins. I am beginning chemistry, a most unusual study. I've never seen anything like it before. Molecules and atoms are the material employed, but I'll be in a position to discuss them more definitely next month. I am also taking argumentation and logic. Also history of the whole world. Also plays of William Shakespeare. Also French. If this keeps up many years longer, I shall become quite intelligent. I should rather have elected economics than French, but I didn't dare, because I was afraid that unless I re-elected French, the professor would not let me pass. As it was, I just managed to squeeze through the June examination. But I will say that my high school preparation was not very adequate. There's one girl in the class who chatters away in French as fast as she does in English. She went abroad with her parents when she was a child, and spent 3 years in a convent school. You can imagine how bright she is compared with the rest of us, or rather, how bright she thinks she is. Irregular verbs are mere playthings. I wish my parents had chucked me into a French convent when I was little instead of a foundling asylum. Oh, no, I don't. Because then maybe I should never have known you. I'd rather know you than French. Goodbye, Daddy. I must call on Harriet Martin now, and, having discussed the chemical situation, casually drop a few thoughts on the subject of our next president. Yours in politics. J. Abbott. October 17th. Dear Daddy Longlegs. Supposing the swimming tank in the gymnasium were filled full of lemon jelly, could a person trying to swim manage to keep on top, or would he sink? We were having lemon jelly for dessert when the question came up. We discussed it heatedly for half an hour, and it's still unsettled. Sally thinks that she could swim in it, but I am perfectly sure that the best swimmer in the world would sink. Wouldn't it be funny to be drowned in lemon jelly? Stone Gate. Worcester, Massachusetts. December 31st. Dear Daddy Longlegs. I meant to write to you before and thank you for your Christmas check. But life in the McBride household is very absorbing, and I don't seem able to find 2 consecutive minutes to spend at a desk. I bought a new gown, one that I didn't need, but just wanted. My Christmas present this year is from Daddy Longlegs. My family just sent love. I've been having the most beautiful vacation visiting Sally. She lives in a big old-fashioned brick house with white trimming set back from the street. Exactly the kind of house that I used to look at so curiously when I was in the John Grier Home, and wonder what it could be like inside. I never expected to see one with my own eyes, but here I am. Everything is so comfortable and restful and homelike. I walk from room to room and drink in the furnishings. It is the most perfect house for children to be brought up in. With shadowy nooks for hide and seek, and open fireplaces for popcorn. And an attic to romp in on rainy days, and slippery banisters with a comfortable flat knob at the bottom. And a great big sunny kitchen, and a nice fat, sunny cook who has lived in the family 13 years and always saves out a piece of dough for the children to bake. Just the sight of such a house makes you want to be a child all over again. And as for families, I never dreamed they could be so nice. Sally has a father and mother and grandmother, and the sweetest 3-year-old baby sister all over curls. And a medium-sized brother who always forgets to wipe his feet, and a big, good-looking brother named Jimmy, who is a junior at Princeton. We have the jolliest times at the table, everybody laughs and jokes and talks at once, and we don't have to say grace beforehand. Such a lot of things we've done. I can't begin to tell you about them. Mr. McBride owns a factory, and Christmas Eve he had a tree for the employees' children. It was in the long packing room, which was decorated with evergreens and holly. Jimmy McBride was dressed as Santa Claus, and Sally and I helped him distribute the presents. Dear me, Daddy, but it was a funny sensation. I felt as benevolent as a trustee of the John Grier home. I kissed one sweet, sticky little boy, but I don't think I patted any of them on the head. And 2 days after Christmas, they gave a party at their own house for me. It was the first really true ball I ever attended. College doesn't count. I had a new white evening gown, your Christmas present, many thanks, and long white gloves and white satin slippers. The only drawback to my perfect, utter, absolute happiness was the fact that Mrs. Lippett couldn't see me. Tell her about it, please, the next time you visit the J.G.H. Yours ever, Judy Abbott. P.S. Would you be terribly displeased, Daddy, if I didn't turn out to be a great author after all, but just a plain girl? 30, Saturday. Dear Daddy. We started to walk to town today, but mercy! How it poured. I like winter to be winter, with snow instead of rain. Julia's desirable uncle called again this afternoon, and brought a 5-pound box of chocolates. There are advantages, you see, about rooming with Julia. Our innocent prattle appeared to amuse him, and he waited over a train in order to take tea in the study. And an awful lot of trouble we had getting permission. It's hard enough entertaining fathers and grandfathers, but uncles are a step worse. And as for brothers and cousins, they are next to impossible. Julia had to swear that he was her uncle before a notary public and then have the county clerk's certificate attached. Don't I know a lot of law? And even then I doubt if we could have had our tea if the dean had chanced to see how youngish and good-looking Uncle Jervis is. Anyway, we had it, with brown bread Swiss cheese sandwiches. He helped make them and then ate 4. I told him that I had spent last summer at Loch Willow, and we had a beautiful gossipy time about the Semples, and the horses and cows and chickens. All the horses that he used to know are dead, except Grover, who was a baby colt at the time of his last visit. And poor Grover now is so old he can just limp about the pasture. He asked if they still kept donuts in a yellow crock with a blue plate over it on the bottom shelf of the pantry, and they do. He wanted to know if there was still a woodchuck's hole under the pile of rocks in the night pasture, and there is. Amasai caught a big, fat, gray one there this summer, the 25th great-grandson of the one Master Jervie caught when he was a little boy. I called him Master Jervie to his face, but he didn't appear to be insulted. Julia says that she has never seen him so amiable. He's usually pretty unapproachable. But Julia hasn't a bit of tact. And men, I find, require a great deal. They purr if you rub them the right way and spit if you don't. That isn't a very elegant metaphor. I mean it figuratively. We're reading Marie Bashkirtseff, Journal. Isn't it amazing? Listen to this. Last night I was seized by a fit of despair that found utterance in moans, and that finally drove me to throw the dining room clock into the sea. It makes me almost hope I'm not a genius. They must be very wearing to have about, and awfully destructive to the furniture. Mercy! How it keeps pouring. January 20th. Dear Daddy Longlegs. Did you ever have a sweet baby girl who was stolen from the cradle in infancy? Maybe I am she. If we were in a novel, that would be the denouement, wouldn't it? It's really awfully queer not to know what one is, sort of exciting and romantic. There are such a lot of possibilities. Maybe I'm not American. Lots of people aren't. I may be straight descended from the ancient Romans, or I may be a Viking's daughter. Or I may be the child of a Russian exile and belong by rights in a Siberian prison, or maybe I'm a gypsy. I think perhaps I am. I have a very wandering spirit, though I haven't as yet had much chance to develop it. Do you know about that one scandalous blot in my career, the time I ran away from the asylum because they punished me for stealing cookies? It's down in the books, free for any trustee to read. But really, Daddy, what could you expect? When you put a hungry little 9-year-old girl in the pantry scouring knives, with the cookie jar at her elbow, and go off and leave her alone, and then suddenly pop in again, wouldn't you expect to find her a bit crummy? And then when you jerk her by the elbow and box her ears, and make her leave the table when the pudding comes, and tell all the other children that it's because she's a thief, wouldn't you expect her to run away? I only ran 4 miles. They caught me and brought me back. And every day for a week I was tied, like a naughty puppy, to a stake in the backyard while the other children were out at recess. Oh, dear. There's the chapel bell, and after chapel I have a committee meeting. I'm sorry because I meant to write you a very entertaining letter this time. Auf Wiedersehen. Cher Daddy. Pax Tibi. Judy. P.S. There's one thing I'm perfectly sure of. I'm not a Chinaman.